Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome, everyone, to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thank you all for joining us. As always, we got a really good show for you guys this week. Danny Garcia and Rey Vargas joining us in separate interviews. Plus, on Toe to Toe, we'll announce our mid-year awards. But speaking of awards, Mike, Hall of Fame weekend, last weekend, a special experience from what I can see. I mean, it was all over social media. I've never been. I know you have. What is the experience like being there in Canastota?
It's an amazing experience. Really the only place outside of fight itself where everything is about boxing. And the honor, I think one of the things that really is striking is the honor means so much to these guys. It's the ultimate validation of everything they worked for, everything they sacrificed most of their lives. They all try not to get too emotional, but so many do. Floyd Mayweather said he wouldn't cry, and then he did for like 2 minutes during his acceptance speech. It happens to the best of them. I would encourage anyone who loves this sport to make the trip to Canastota at least once. It's a really, really special experience.
Yeah, I definitely want to go. I feel like I should have gone to this one because, obviously this was a very special one. There were 3 classes inducted, 2020, 2021, 2022. What can you tell us about these 3 classes, and which one was best in your opinion?
Well, first, real quick background. It's one of the greatest classes ever inducted because of the coronavirus pandemic, which forced the postponement of 2 Hall of Fame weekends. So 3 classes, 2020, 21, and 22, all went into the Hall at the same time. It was sort of an embarrassment of riches. This is who went in: Mayweather, Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins, Andre Ward, Vladimir Klitschko. Excuse me, I'm getting choked up just reading the names. Juan Manuel Marquez, Miguel Cotto, and Shane Mosley, and that's just the men. In the modern category, by the way. The first women's class from 2020 also went in. That was Christy Martin and Lucia Riker among modern fighters. They were joined by Layla Ali, Ann Wolfe, Regina Halmick, and Holly Holm. I wouldn't say it was the best group to enter the hall, in mass. The inaugural class featured, a long list of all-time greats led by Muhammad Ali. However, an incredible group of fighters were inducted on Sunday. We'll probably never see anything like that again, barring, more unforeseen circumstances.
Right.
Okay, and as far as the ranking, I gave this quite a bit of thought. I think you got to go with 2021 with Mayweather, Klitschko, and Ward. I mean, you have the best fighter of the century in Mayweather, the dominant heavyweight for a decade or more, and an undefeated 2-division champion who arguably was the best after Mayweather and Pacquiao were in their primes. Next would be 2022, I think, with my favorite, Roy Jones. Also James Toney and Miguel Cotto, but I think the previous group was more accomplished. Then comes 2020, which was Bernard Hopkins, Juan Manuel Marquez, and Shane Mosley. That was another great class, but hey, this is a Hall of Fame. They're all supposed to be great fighters.
Yeah. I mean, all those classes were fantastic. Let's play a game here. I'm going to name all the inductees in the modern categories, and Mike is going to give us a word or two on each one. So let's kick this off. We'll start with 2020. Bernard Hopkins.
Ageless.
Alien. How about Juan Manuel Marquez?
The master.
Shane Mosley.
Explosive.
Christy Martin.
I went back and forth between pioneer and warrior. She was both.
Lucia Riker.
The GOAT.
Okay, I like that. I was a big fan of Lucia Riker. 2021, Vladimir Klitschko.
Consistency.
Floyd Mayweather.
Best of his era.
TBE, okay. Andre Ward.
Wizard.
Layla Ali.
More than just a name.
I like that. Ann Wolfe.
Hard work.
Powerful. 2022, Miguel Cotto.
Also consistent.
Okay. Roy Jones Jr.
Breathtaking.
James Toney.
Gifted.
Regina Halmick.
Winner.
Holly Holm.
True combat sports star, the best ever at both sides.
Okay, that's way too many words there. No, she absolutely, yeah, I hear you. She absolutely gets all of that and then some. I mean, a really, really, really great group. I wish this was the one I should have gone to, quite frankly. So I am disappointed that I didn't. But let's move on and bring in our first guest this week. He is the former WBC World Super Bantamweight Champion, and he's looking to become a 2-division champ when he faces WBC Featherweight Champion Mark Magsayo Saturday, July 9th on Showtime, the undefeated Rey Vargas. First things first, how has camp been for your upcoming fight?
Bien, pues estamos trabajando sobre al rival. Digo, siempre llegamos bien a las peleas, primeramente Dios, esta no queremos que sea la excepción y bueno, siempre trabajamos, buscamos trabajar bien y no bien, sino mejor cada preparación.
We are doing great. We are, getting ready, studying our opponent, and we actually, for every fight, we have good training camps, and each time we just try to get better. That's the goal, because our preparation is always top notch, and we try to improve it each time that we have a new challenge ahead of us.
What can you tell us about your opponent, Mark Magsayo?
Pues es un rival fuerte que va para adelante y tiene pues una pegada fuerte, por decirlo así. Sabemos que o pretendemos que va a salir a presionar y a salir con golpes fuertes o de potencia.
Magsayo is a strong, aggressive power puncher. I fully expect him to come out and try to lay into me and be the one that dictates the action. So that's where the power punching will be his main characteristic.
Rey, what did you think of his fight against Gary Russell? A lot of people thought it was a very close fight.
Pues fue una buena pelea, a lo mejor yo esperaba una mayor explosividad, pero estratégicamente no fue una mala pelea. Gary Russell es un peleador muy bueno y muy agilidoso. Se supone que por ahí se le lastimó la mano con un golpe que ya trae lastimada la mano y con un golpe de Magsayo terminó lastimando nuevamente. Y aún así, la mitad de pelea, Gary Russell pues se lo llevó a la escuelita, si lo podemos poner de esa manera. Pero Magsayo hizo su trabajo, ¿no? Hizo lo que pudo y se me hace que llegó hasta un cierto límite nada más. Pero pues eso le bastó para ganar.
It was a good fight. I personally expected it to be more explosive than it was. But in the end, what I thought about Magsayo was that Gary Russell had the injury in his hand, which either he was already injured or something that Magsayo did ended up hurting him, but that Gary Russell took him to school for a big chunk of that fight. And Magsayo seemed to hit a ceiling of sorts to where his limitations were evident, but at the same time, they were also enough for him to win the fight and prevail.
Interesting. Okay. You were supposed to fight Russell at one point. Can you tell us why that fight didn't happen?
Realmente no es cuestión mía. A mí, bueno, se supone que esa pelea antes no era Magsayo y Gary, era Gary y yo. Pero Gary no pelea muy, muy espontáneo y entonces no se coincidieron las fechas cuando queríamos pelear. Y entonces a mí me dieron una fecha y después Gary dijo que se peleaba y ya no entrábamos. Entonces se le dio la oportunidad a Magsayo de hacer esa pelea.
It was really nothing that I could have done about it. It was sort of like a spontaneous kind of thing to where the dates didn't match up. And Gary, that wasn't able to be done. And that's how Magsayo got his chance against him.
How do you think you would have done if you had fought Russell?
Comparado con Magsayo.
Pues yo creo que va a ser una pelea un poco difícil de los dos lados, ¿no? Gary es un peleador escorridizo, inteligente. Yo tengo igual buena defensiva, pero soy un poquito más exigente, ¿no? Entonces yo creo que tal vez hubiera ido a la puntuación en esa pelea, pero yo creo que hemos salido con la mano en alto.
I think I would have won. It would have been a tough fight, no doubt about it, where the clash of styles would have been interesting because he's kind of squirrely. He slips away from you, while I try to be more aggressive and more upfront. In the end, when push comes to shove, I do believe my hand would have been raised when the decision came down.
You came back last November. You beat Leonardo Baez by unanimous decision in a very impressive performance. But what did you think of your performance coming back after that long layoff?
Bien, yo creo me sentí bien en la pelea, me sentí vivo, me sentí de regreso. Realmente para estar 2 años inactivo y sobre todo pues en cama algunos meses, pues la gente esperaba menos, ¿no? Yo creo que la gente esperaba verme acabado o derrotado, pero pues no, yo creo que sorprendí. Y yo creo que lo malo o que hice, pues no, pues realmente no lo sentimos nosotros, ¿no? Yo creo que en esa pelea no me sentí que fallé en algunas cosas, tal vez en algunas pasadas sí, pero en esa yo creo que me sentí bien en hacer una buena pelea.
I felt good. I felt alive. I felt like I was back. And it felt so nice to be able to do what I love to do after 2 years away, after spending months bedridden. I think that people thought that I was done, that people expected me, to be cooked after such a long layoff. And I proved that I am still here, that I can still have a lot to offer. And as far as the fight itself, I don't feel like I necessarily did anything that you could pinpoint and be like, oh, you need to do this better. But what I do feel it was that within the expectations, I did very well, and that there is room to get even better this time around.
Yeah, I thought you looked terrific. You sort of just answered this question, but did you feel any ring rust from the layoff?
No, me sentí bien. Yo creo que ha sido una de las peleas donde me hizo más rápido, con mayor movimiento y a lo mejor un poquito más fuerte, más potente. Digo, fue mi primera pelea en pluma, pero bien, sin problema.
It was my first fight at featherweight, so I felt great. I felt light. I felt fast. I felt agile. No problem at all. So the ring rust wasn't a factor.
So you were off for a long time. You're fighting at a new weight. Do you think you might be even better your second fight at the weight against Magsayo?
Sí, de alguna manera es un antecedente la pasada, pero bueno, no va a ser una pelea fácil. A lo mejor que sí me vaya acomodando en el peso, sí, pero es una pelea, yo creo, como todavía más dura que la pasada. Es un peleador, como vamos a repetirlo, es un peleador fuerte y que va para adelante. Pero bueno, para eso nos preparamos, para eso estamos entrenando. Y pues siempre es llegar mejor a cada pelea y subir de nivel cada pelea.
Yeah, like it is gonna be like a factor to where I am fighting for the second time at featherweight and I have that first fight to rely on, but at the same time this is gonna be a harder fight against a strong, aggressive opponent. But that's what we prepare for, right? To be prepared for even bigger challenges as they come, and to get better each and every single day.
You're trained by your father, who was also a boxer, and also Nacho Beristain, who trained the great Juan Manuel Marquez. Marquez was inducted into the Hall of Fame this weekend, and I wanted to know, did you ever get a chance to meet him or watch him train or anything?
Sí, por supuesto. Sí nos conocemos, nos hablamos sin ningún problema, nos tratamos bien. Y bueno, años tenemos que nos conocemos, Márquez, mi papá, don Nacho, desde que yo era amateur, ¿no? Entonces, sí, por supuesto, mi papá igual lleva buena relación con Juan Manuel Márquez, y pues yo creo que es algo agradable, ¿no? Siempre convivir con nuestros colegas, y pues digo, el nivel que alcanzó Juan Manuel Márquez, pues también es muy agradable y de reconocer.
Of course, we have been in touch for years where, Marquez has a really good relationship with my dad, and I've known him since I was an amateur, and it's very comforting to know that someone like that is in touch with you and that you can rely on that person and know that you can be in touch with someone like Marquez that for so long and through the family.
What is the chemistry like between you, your father, and Nacho? What is that like, the relationship between you three in the gym?
Como lo comentaba en la entrevista pasada, mi papá y Nacho, bueno, son amigos de infancia. De alguna manera, pues, tenemos más de 170 años de experiencia entre ellos, ¿no? Mi papá de 85 años, que mi papá todavía manoplea y está en el gimnasio. No, Nacho ya nada más es más experiencia, ¿no? En dirigir. Y bueno, cuando hay pláticas entre ellos, pues es enriquecedor, ¿no? Pero de repente ya la experiencia y los años que tienen, el ego de cada uno no quiere quedarse abajo y uno quiere sobresalir y el otro se quiere imponer y entonces van como una escalera y ya ahí es un poquito desagradable, ¿no? De esa parte, porque a fin de cuentas en medio estoy yo. Pero bueno, hay que saber llevar esa parte, hay que saberla controlar y pues entrenamos de alguna manera, cada quien tiene su espacio para poder entrenar.
Well, when it comes to our relationship, it's one where we try to make each other better, and we have a combined 170 plus years of experience in boxing between the three of us, and it comes down to how my dad employs his experience, inside the gym. Nacho is more like the from experience getting the boxing what's what I'm looking for, the boxing awareness that he has. And then when it comes to the relationship between Nacho and my dad specifically, yeah, sometimes the egos clash to where it becomes kind of like a ladder to where they try to one up each other, and that's kind of like, that's unlikable at times, I would say, but at the same time we try to manage that and pull forward together to where what's best for the entire team moving forward.
Rey, who are some of the fighters that you admired growing up? I think we mentioned one, but who are some of the others?
De chico, pues no tenía mucha conciencia de lo del boxeo, del futuro amateur o profesional, ¿no? Y mi papá me inculcaba mucho Ricardo Finito López, ¿no? Siempre ese estilo, de alguna manera sí lo hicimos. Ahora pues no los seguí como al pie de la letra. De repente me gana lo mexicano o lo enchiloso, digo yo, ¿no? Haré el intercambio. Pero yo creo que de los peleadores que más me agradan y me inspiran es Juan Manuel Márquez, Floyd Mayweather y Nicolino Roche.
Okay, interesting.
Well, when I was growing up, I wasn't really that attuned with boxing as a sport. I didn't really think about my future, amateur or professional. My dad was into someone called Ricardo Finito Lopez, and where sometimes I think that also maybe I'm a little biased when it comes to Mexican fighters. But overall, I will say that my three favorite boxers of all time, personally, are Juan Manuel Márquez, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and Nicolino Roche.
Loche is an interesting name that you threw out. What is it about him that, why'd you mention him?
Sí, es realmente muchos no lo conocen, lo ignoran. Y hay otro peleador, no recuerdo el nombre, se me olvida mucho, que bailaba peleando, o sea, literalmente bailaba. Pero son estilos que a mí me son agradables o interesantes porque Nicolino Roche, Floyd Mayweather, ¿no? Floyd Mayweather moderno, por decirlo así. Roche en su momento pues no le pegaban, de alguna manera tiene una agilidad y unos reflejos enormes y daba buen espectáculo técnicamente, ¿no?
Because it comes down to how Floyd Mayweather was the modern Roche. Loche was able to dance in the ring and be able to avoid each and every punch that came his way. It was amazing the way that he was able to gracefully go about the ring and avoid any kind of damage in the way that Mayweather did years later. And that's what attracts me: the finesse, the kind of beauty to that kind of agility that Loche used to have and that Mayweather used to have as well.
Fantastic. So are there any fighters today you like to watch?
Realmente soy un peleador, pero no veo, cada 8 días no estoy pegado, a lo mejor de repente a funciones. Veo solamente a ver peleas que me interesan mucho, pero bueno, yo creo que en la actualidad Lomachenko es uno de los peleadores que puedo admirar de los modernos o de mi era, ¿no? De mi época, porque es un peleador muy completo desde el amateur. Lo conocí, no lo vi una sola vez pelear, y bueno, en el profesional yo creo que se me hace fantástico. Gervonta también se me hace un peleador muy bueno, o sea, realmente tiene su pegada extraordinaria, ¿no?
I'm the kind of boxer that's not glued to the TV every 7-8 days to see every fight. I try to focus on myself. But if I had to tell you who I like to watch, first of all, Lomachenko. He's someone that's strong, and I got to know him where I was able to see one of his fights, and I really liked it. And the fact that his career has been so complete since he was an amateur, I take my hat off to him for that. And then Gervonta Davis is another one that's really complete. The way that his punches are so powerful, they are something to behold for sure.
Assuming you get past Magsayo, who would you like to face next?
Esa pelea ya pregunta me la han hecho, perdón. Pues hay muchos en la línea, ¿no? No me gusta adelantar, siempre he dicho, vamos paso a paso. Pero primeramente Dios que salgamos con la mano en alto de esta pelea con Magsayo. Y bueno, pues hay varios nombres, ¿no? Por ejemplo, está Leo, está Navarrete, el que le ganó a Kiko, se me olvidó su nombre. Entonces hay varias opciones, pero bueno, primero nos concentramos en esta pelea.
Leo es Leo Santa Cruz, ¿verdad?
Leo, sí.
Sí. I already got asked this question in other interviews, and my question remains the same, where I want to take things step by step. There is no overlooking anybody. That would be a dangerous proposition. I want to remain focused. But if you ask me which names dance around in my head, Leo Santa Cruz is in there, Navarrete. There are a couple of other opponents that I could see myself fighting. Their names don't necessarily come to mind right now, but I'm open to any and all possibilities while staying focused on this fight.
Last question for you. Tell us what you think is going to happen in the Magsayo fight. Are you looking for the knockout in this fight and to make a statement, Rey?
Pues las dos posibilidades existen, ¿no? Yo creo que vamos a tratar de que no llegue a decisión. Pero bueno, yo creo que haciendo una pelea buena, una pelea inteligente, y bueno, la gente va a salir con la mayor parte de ganancia, ¿no? Yo creo que si damos una pelea espectacular, puede haber una revancha inmediata en su caso, o en su momento dado, si la gente queda espectacularmente complacida, ¿no? Pero sí vamos a trabajar sobre la decisión temprana, y vamos a ir presionando sobre eso.
We're working with the premise of wanting to get this over with early, right? But I'm well aware that there's also the possibility that this could go the distance. So we are ready for both possibilities, while at the same time, the main thing that I want to accomplish is to give fans a spectacular show, something that they won't forget. I know that if we do that, then there is a possibility of an immediate rematch, and hopefully the fans love the fight, they want to see more, and we give the fans all over the world what they want to see on July 9th.
Ray, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. We wish you all the best on July 9th.
Gracias, igual. Igual a todos, un abrazo.
Thank you, guys.
Un saludo.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe with the next PBC fight, not until July 9th. We have gone ahead and named our PBC Mid-Year Awards. We've got a lot to choose from, a lot of great nominees. So let's get started with the categories. The first one is Prospect of the Year. And man, are there many. We're going to go with 4 listings per category. And kicking this one off, Richardson Hitchens, Frank Martin, Elvis Rodriguez, Jose Valenzuela. Mike, who was your choice?
This one was almost impossible just to pick one because all 4 are such good prospects. It was almost random, but I'll say that there's just something about Jose Valenzuela for me. He's a relentless volume puncher with power who can also take a punch. That's a tough combination for any opponent, regardless of their style. I went back and watched his past few fights. Man, that dude is a beast. My only question is whether his aggressiveness might lead him into trouble, meaning maybe a big punch. But I really like what I see from Valenzuela. On top of his abilities, really, really fun to watch. So, yeah, I just like this guy a lot.
Yeah, me too. And I gave it a lot of thought with him, and I like kind of what you said about his aggression. I mean, it's a positive trait, but my choice is Frank Martin because, one, he had that incredibly explosive KO of Romero Duno on January 1st. But just what I've seen from him, to be a prospect, he's so composed, so well-schooled. He can box. He knows when to let his hands go. He's athletic, well-schooled. He's got good pop. He's got a great team behind him with Derek James. He just looks the part. I can't wait to see, what he does in his next fight, how 2022 looks for him, the rest of 2022. But I am looking forward to watching his development. Jose Valenzuela as well. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with all those guys. Yeah. I think future world champions. Let's move on to the next category, which is the Emerging Star Award. The nominees are Cody Crowley, David Morrell, Gary Antoine Russell, and Tim Tszyu. Now, it should be noted that we thought about Jerron Ennis in this category. I believe he won last year, but we think he's moved past that, past this category. So here we are, Crowley, Morrell, Antoine Russell, and Mr. Tszyu. Who you got?
This was also a tough one. I thought about Tszyu and Russell, both of whom I really like a lot. But I think it has to be Morrell. He has that Cuban amateur background, which gives him a strong foundation. The guy can box, no question about it. He's quick and athletic, and he has punching power on top of everything else. And I love the fact he lives and trains in Minneapolis, which I'm guessing makes it easy for him to focus on boxing. He's also making a concerted effort to learn English, which will help him in marketing down the road. So I just think the guy's the complete package. I think he's got a really big future.
Yeah, I agree with you. My choice is Gary Antoine Russell. I've been watching this guy for a long time. I mean, he was celebrating the amateurs for everything he did. And thus far as a pro, it's another fighter who looks the part. Took a monstrous step up in facing Victor Postol in February, a former world champion. That was a huge step up. And he becomes, the first to stop Postol, so he passed him in flying colors. It's another one who's I like the team around him. He comes from a royal fighting family, you could say, and another person I'm looking forward to seeing. Obviously, July 30th, he's going to continue taking steps up because he'll be going up against Francis Bartholomew, completely different style, and should be interesting to see how he handles that.
Love Russell. Yeah. This was really hard. I liked all these guys. It was just like you got to pick one. So Morrell, just mainly for me, I think it was the amateur foundation. I think he's got such a strong foundation, but can't wait to see how all these guys develop.
Yeah, me too. Let's move on to the next category, Comeback of the Year. I will start off with Tony Harrison. His unanimous decision win over Sergio Garcia. Luis Nery's points win over Carlos Castro. Leo Santa Cruz coming back and outpointing Keenan Carbajal. And Keith Thurman winning a 12-round unanimous decision over Mario Barrios. What you got?
Again, I liked all the nominees, but this is actually might have been the easiest category for me. Keith Thurman. Thurman was coming off his loss to Pacquiao in the summer of 2019. He had been battling injuries for a long time. He said he felt good, before this fight, but we really didn't know what we'd see when he fought a capable guy in Mario Barrios this past February. In the end, Thurman looked a lot like Thurman. He was quick and explosive. His timing was good in spite of the layoff. He won a wide decision that I think pretty much everybody think he deserved. Now he's back in the thick of the welterweight mix. So yeah, it was a nice comeback from Thurman.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, first fight in nearly 3 years, coming off the loss to Pacquiao, the injuries, everyone wondering what he had left, and he looked great. I mean, went 12 rounds, no problem, didn't show any signs for wear or any aging or anything like that. The hand speed was still there, the power is there. Mind you, he was fighting in 10-ounce gloves, which isn't typical for the 147-pound division. So who knows? He might have even induced a stoppage if that wasn't the case. So, he's my choice as well. Let's move on to knockout of the year. The nominees are Gervonta Tank Davis versus Rolando Romero, Jaron Ennis versus Custio Clayton, Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin, and Frank Martin versus Romero Duno. What's your choice?
These were all explosive, dramatic knockouts, but I think you can't go wrong if you go with Gervonta Tank Davis. It was just, I think maybe his punch was just the most final of all the big punches. It was a competitive fight. I really liked what I saw from Romero for however long that he was still standing. But once that punch landed, it was just all over. And that's Gervonta Davis. Just don't blink, because he's going to end fights in an instant.
Yeah, absolutely. He is my choice as well. And that was kind of a don't blink moment, because I did blink. I didn't see what happened. And next thing I know, Romero was on the ground, and I had to wait for the replay. Easily my choice. And they're all great options here, but I think Davis has got this far and away. I mean, it was highlight reel. LeBron was talking about it. Drake was talking about it. Kevin Durant was talking about it. I mean, it was, it went viral, as his knockouts tend to do. Now, let's move on to upset of the year. The nominees in this category are Chris Colbert versus Hector Garcia. Of course, Garcia scoring the big points win. Fernando Martinez dethroning Herwin Ancajas. Mark Magsayo becoming the new featherweight champion, defeating Gary Russell Jr., and Luke Santamaria beating Abel Ramos. What's your choice?
Once again, all four were big upsets, but this is actually sort of easy for me. It was Hector Garcia, unanimous decision over Chris Colbert. I saw Colbert as an excellent boxer, a potential pound for pound guy. I still think he has a bright future. Garcia was a good amateur and unbeaten as a pro, but we didn't really know what he'd bring, especially because he took the fight on 3 weeks' notice, which made the upset even crazier. He just outboxed Colbert, and he put him down for good measure, en route to winning a wide decision. Which was just a huge breakthrough for Garcia, who's a really, really good fighter. But again, I'm not willing to write Colbert off, but huge upset.
Yeah, it's my choice as well. I mean, even during the fight, I kept waiting for Colbert to just turn it on. I was like, well, maybe he's going to do it this round. It probably took me about 6-7 rounds before I was like, oh boy, I mean, we've got a big upset brewing here. And it was a big upset, as you mentioned. I mean, Colbert was touted for great things, and he certainly had looked apart in prior fights, and then he ran into a buzzsaw. Let's move on to trainer of the year. The nominees are Calvin Ford, Freddie Fundura, Derek James, and Wahid Rahim. Mike, who do you got?
With respect to the other guys, this was maybe the easiest category. It has to be Derek James. He trains Errol Spence Jr. and Jermell Charlo, both of whom won title unification bouts so far this year. Spence took out the conqueror of Manny Pacquiao, Yordenis Ugas, which we've talked about, and Charlo stopped Brian Castano in their rematch to become undisputed at 154. One could argue that James trains two guys in the top 5 pound for pound. So Derek James is flying high at the moment.
Yes, and not to mention, I mean, Frank Martin, who we discussed
And
as
Martin,
well.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, the guy's got 7 world titles in his stable currently. Errol Spence obviously added a 3rd one, and then, Jermell Charlo, now the undisputed champion at 154. No question, Derek James is my trainer of the year. Let's move on to fight of the year. And the nominees are Victor Faust versus Iago Kalaj, Erickson Lubin versus Sebastian Fundora, Subriel Matias in his rematch against Petros Ananyan, and Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin. Who do you have here?
This wasn't actually that easy. I'd really give this some thought, but I landed on Fundora and Lubin. The drama was so thick in that fight with the back and forth action. Big punches landed by both guys. Again, Fundora took some heavy shots. One flurry was so intense that he actually took a knee to sort of save himself. It was kind of a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I really thought there was a chance that Fundora would be stopped at that point, but nope, he recovered. He got back to doing what he'd been doing, which is dishing out punishment. And the fight was stopped because Lubin had just taken too much by the end. That was one hell of a fight.
It really, truly was. I mean, it was won pretty decisively by Fundora, obviously the knockout win, but the stoppage win. But it was back and forth. I mean, round after round. Sure, Fundora had the upper hand, but Lubin was giving everything he had. There were, great shots landed by both of them. Of course, you mentioned the 7th round, when Lubin forced him to take a knee. It was just a great, great fight. Easily my choice for fight of the year. Let's move on to the next category, performance of the year. And the nominees are Jermell Charlo in his rematch versus Brian Castano for the undisputed crown, stopping Castano in 10. Cool boy Stephen Fulton putting on an absolute clinic against former champion Danny Roman, Erickson Lubin, and Sebastian Fundora. Fundora, of course, with fantastic performance that we just discussed, and Errol Spence Jr. stopping Yordenis Ugas in 10 rounds. Mike, who is your choice?
This was really, really hard. You can make an argument for all four, which all four were spectacular performances. And I don't want to give Fundora too much credit, but he's the guy that I landed on. I think when you consider how talented and how hot Lubin was, combined with the fact Fundora, gave him a pretty bad beating by the end of the fight, I think he's my guy in this category. Again, it wasn't easy for Fundora, which to me made the performance better. He had to overcome some adversity to have his hand raised. I always thought that his skinny body would break at some point, but it hasn't so far. That was just a tremendous performance by him. Comparing it to the other ones, Spence and Charlo and Fulton were just amazing in those performances. But just watching what Fundora did to Lubin just sort of blew me away. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And obviously, we discussed that for Fight of the Year. And I think Fundora certainly a worthy winner for Performance of the Year. But my choice goes to Errol Spence Jr. against Yordenis Ugas. The atmosphere was just electric in Dallas. First of all, he had a great ring entrance. So, props to him for that. And then he goes in there and, we're wondering, is it the same Spence? It's been so long. He had the eye injury. And not only is it the same Spence, it may be the best Spence we've ever seen. I thought he was brilliant. He showed every tool that he had, broke down a really good fighter in Yordenis Ugas, and stopped him in fine fashion. Errol Spence Jr. can't wait to see what's next for him in 2022. Now we move on to the final category, Fighter of the Year or Fighter of the Half Year. And the nominees are Jermell Charlo, Stephen Fulton, Sebastian Fundora, and Errol Spence Jr. Mike, who is your winner?
Honestly, I feel bad leaving anybody out. Again, for special performances that these guys delivered. For me, it came down to either Jermell Charlo or Errol Spence. Maybe, you can make cases for the other guys, but I ended up landing on those two guys, before I made my final decision. And I finally decided to go with Charlo because of what preceded his rematch with Castano and the fact it was for the undisputed 154-pound championship. There was more at stake in this fight than any of the other ones. As we know, they had fought to a draw in the first fight. Well, in the rematch, Charlo did what he did in the second fight with Tony Harrison. He just took charge, dominated the opponent, and finished the job with a knockout. It was a hell of a stoppage and a really, really important fight. That might have been the best performance of his career, which is saying something, given his history of success. So, yeah, kudos to Charlo. Amazing performance. I would make him the first half of the year fighter of the year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Jermell Charlo, fighter of the year thus far. Like you said, giving that background, and then his performance that night. I mean, the boxing, the brawling, the way he finished, he showed every tool in the book. Look, Jermell Charlo right now at this point, he's not just one of the best fighters in the world today. He is one of the greatest junior middleweights that ever lived. This guy is establishing his Hall of Fame credentials, and he's just so clutch. When the pressure is on, when everything is in the middle of the table, he delivers. We saw it against Tony Harrison, and we saw it again against Brian Castano that second time. So we are in agreement. Jermell Charlo, for sure, fighter of the year. Can't wait for the second half of 2022. And we're going to bring in our next guest. Speaking of all-time great division champions, he is one of the best 140-pounders ever, a two-division world champion who returns to the ring, makes his 154-pound debut Saturday, July 30th at the Barclays Center, which is basically his second home, live on Showtime against Jose Benavidez Jr, Danny Garcia. Danny, first things first, how are you and your family doing?
Everything's well. The family's well. Everyone's health is good. So really can't complain. I'm truly blessed.
Now, July 30th, the Danny Garcia show is back at the Barclays. Jose Benavidez Jr., how excited are you to be back in the ring?
I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. I'm happy. I feel fresh. I feel well rested. And I think that's the most important thing for me right now in my career, is just feeling good and feeling rested. And I got a lot of energy in the gym. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And it feels like I never left.
Danny, what made you make the decision to move up to 54?
Well, I feel like, I was a 140-pound champion. I won 147. I fought the best at 147. And I feel like just staying at that weight is, it's just taking a step back for me. My dream was always to be a 3-division world champion. And I feel like this is the perfect time for me to go up to 154.
Do you feel stronger training for a 154-pound fight?
Yeah, definitely. I feel a lot stronger. I don't have to kill myself to make weight. I don't have to sacrifice as much. All I have to do is put hard work in, eat good food, and, and just be happy. Like I said, at this point in my career, I got to be happy while I'm training. I can't be miserable worrying about losing weight. And I feel like, once I'm happy and I feel good, the sky's the limit.
Just out of curiosity, at what weight do you walk around with, like in between fights when you're not training for a fight?
I would say I checked my weight before I fought Spence, and I was 185 pounds. Yeah,
you're almost a cruiserweight.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm small because I used to fight at 140, but a lot of people don't know I'm a naturally big guy, but I just squeeze myself down to make weight. But I would say when I'm in the gym and I'm working out, my walk around weight's about 170. So I would say my walk around weight's 170. 170, 175.
But going from 185 to 147, do you think that takes something out of you though, before you get in the ring, or?
Yeah, that was my fault. I should have never checked, because usually I don't check my weight. I only check my weight like 4 weeks before the fight, because I already know I'm in shape. I'm smarting 10, 12 rounds already. And then all I got to do is just lose the weight. So that was my fault for checking. Somebody made me get on the scale because they thought I was going to be a lot lighter. So I got on the scale, and then that it kind of bit me in the butt. But other than that, losing weight's always a process, mentally and physically. So you just gotta be built for it. I've been doing it my whole life, so it doesn't really bother me. But like I said before, I feel like this part of my career, I feel like I got to worry about just being happy and training hard and giving it everything I got.
Give us your thoughts on Jose Benavidez Jr. What do you know about him, his style, and so forth?
Yeah, I've been watching him since he was fighting at 140 at one time. When I was the champion at 140, I think he was the regular champion. So I've always been, I'm a fan of boxing, so I always watch who's new, who's coming up, who's around, and I always watch him and his brother. But I think he was on the scene first, so I'm pretty familiar with his style. I know what he brings to the table.
Now you kind of alluded to this before, but do you have to train differently, fighting at 154 as opposed to 147, maybe to like get stronger, but still keep your quickness and everything?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be sparring. We already started sparring, but we're going to spar bigger guys. I'm doing a lot more strength and conditioning. I used to do strength and conditioning 3 times a week. Now I'm doing it 5 times a week. So I want to build more muscle. I want to build more strength. And I think that's going to help me a lot going up in weight.
It sounds like you're real hungry.
Oh, yeah. I'm always hungry, man. I'm hungry. So this is it's really right here.
What's up?
I got another baby on the way, so
oh wow,
I gotta keep, yeah. Thank you. So I gotta fight for my family and make sure they're good. So that's extra motivation.
Well, Philly's the biggest star in the Garcia family. That I know.
Yeah.
You know if your new baby is gonna be a boy or a girl?
Oh man, well the cat's already out the bag. The mom already leaked it, so I'm having another girl.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Sit right there, Phil. Sit right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I'm never gonna get my junior. It's all right though.
More time.
Right.
So Danny, you will have been inactive for about 1.5 years. Is there any concern about rust at all?
I've been boxing for 24 years. And this is my 40th professional fight. In the beginning, it's always a little tough getting back in the ring. It's always a little tough getting back in the ring because, you've been out the ring for so long. So those first couple sparring sessions are a little tough. But after that, I feel like it's kind of like riding a bike. When you've been boxing for so long, I don't feel like ring rust affects you.
Got it. So you've had a lot of wonderful moments at Barclays. I remember when you fought Zab Judah there and the crowd was just electric. Would you say that's your favorite fight venue, or what are your feelings about fighting at Barclays?
I love fighting at Barclays. It's my home away from home. The atmosphere is, I think I was the first world title fight there. So, Barclays always been a home away from home for me, and the atmosphere is great. The fans, the people in Brooklyn love boxing. And I just feel like I can't wait. I can't wait to feel the atmosphere again.
Now, outside the ring, you've done so well. I mean, from investments in stock to real estate, I've seen interviews where you spoke about it. And I was wondering, where did that entrepreneurial mind come from? Is that something you always had? Like, where did you learn all of that?
Growing up, I used to hear about fighters, going broke and all that stuff. So I kind of just did my research why most fighters go broke. Bad spending habits. And the number one thing was taxes. So, I just made sure. And then I started reading books. I just started reading books on investments like Warren Buffett. Because a lot of people told me, don't put your money in stocks. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose all your money. I should just listen to other people. But once I did my own research and I realized like in the last 200 years, like the stock market, like right now it's down, but overall you always win. It's just a long-term game.
Right. So,
taxes, real estate, and stocks, and the best entrepreneurs in the world either do stocks or like real estate. Those are like the safest investments. So that's why I already risked my life in the ring. So I don't want to invest my money in like risky businesses. So I just invested in the safer stuff, stocks and real estate.
So what gives you a greater feeling? Winning a world title or like closing on a good property?
Well, they're two different feelings, to be honest. Like nothing tops being a world champion or being the best. That's like the greatest feeling in the world. But then on the other side, when you make money on stocks and you're really not doing nothing, or like you sell a piece of real estate, it gives you it kind of makes me feel happy because I proved that I can make money outside the ring. So when boxing is all said and done, I know I have a life after boxing. I know I can continue to make money.
Yeah.
Excellent. Danny, you're a junior middleweight now, where there's one champion, Jermell Charlo. What is it about Charlo do you think makes him so successful?
He's been at that weight, his whole entire career. So he's a big guy. He's beat all the fighters at that weight class. And he had all the right fights. He beat all the right guys. And he's just, he's working hard. When you work hard, you win. So I really can't take nothing away from him.
So we had him on the podcast some time back, and he mentioned you as a possible opponent. Is that the guy that you want next?
Yeah, we definitely want to be a champion again. We definitely want to be a champion again at 154. So if he has the titles, we fight him. But there's another guy that been calling out my name too.
Who's that?
Lara said he wants to fight me. And I know he got the middleweight belt, and he said he'll fight me at a catchweight. So, if he wants to, after this fight, we get this W, I'll fight for the middleweight title at 155.
Wow, is that something you think is realistic?
I think it's real realistic. He said my name. I think it's a great fight. He has a great resume. I have a great resume. And I think that's a great fight. But right now we're worrying about Jose Benavidez. But I think that's an easy fight to make because he's with PBC. I'm with PBC. There's really no in-betweens. He said he wants to fight me, and he said he'll fight me at a catchweight. So we could do it at 155.
So I know you don't want to look past Jose Benavidez, but you kind of exciting the fans right now. If you could picture how, the rest of 2022 and 2023 would play out, what do you see happening?
I would love to win this fight in good fashion, show the fans that I'm still here, show the fans that I'm still a force to be reckoned with. I've been here for 10 years at this level, since 2012, fighting up nothing but the best. I fought 15 world champions. I've been in 10 world title fights, and it feels like I'm still getting started. So in a perfect world, I like to get this victory in good fashion, and then I would like to fight. I would like to fight Lara next, or anybody at 154, and then after that, we'll see. But those are the fights that kind of in my head I feel good about.
I like it. Now you're leaving 147. Obviously, everyone's talking about Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. Starting with Spence, what did you think of his win over Yordenis Ugas? Assess his performance for us.
I think he did a great job. I knew that fight was going to play out like that. A lot of people told me it's going to be a good fight. But I knew Ugas' style, he stands in front of you, and I knew that Spence was going to punish him. And he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. And it was a great win. It was a great win.
So you fought Errol as a pro, and you also fought Terrence in the amateurs. If that fight happens this year, how do you see it playing out?
Man, that's a good fight stylistically. It's definitely a 50-50 fight because Spence is the bigger, busier guy. I think he's bigger, he's physically stronger, and he's more busy. He's mentally strong. Both fighters are mentally strong. So I feel like whoever wants it more that night is going to get it.
It's a great matchup, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great matchup. And when the fans want to fight and you're already rich, you might as well just fight. So get it on.
I like that attitude. Yeah. So Danny, you're already a legend in Philadelphia. You're a strong candidate for the Hall of Fame. You've built a great life for yourself. What motivates you to come back to the ring?
When I took this year off of boxing, after the Spence fight, I was a little mentally tired. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little mentally tired. I was a little physically tired. But when you've been fighting your whole life, it kind of just dawned on me one day, and I was like, you know what? I'm a fighter. This is what I do. This is what I was born to do. And this is what I'm probably gonna do for the rest of my life. I'm not saying I'm a box to 50 like Bernard Hopkins, because then that's unheard of. He is the alien for a reason. He is a great fighter for that reason. But when my body tells me, you know what, Danny, you can't keep up with this no more, then I'll stop. But for now, I feel good, and I'm just a fighter. This is what I do. It's just like Warren Buffett does stocks and he's 90 years old. He still does it. He loves making millions. I'm 34. I love boxing. You know what I'm saying? So when you find out what your purpose is on this world, my purpose is to fight and entertain the fans and take care of my family. That's my purpose. And until I can't do it no more, then that's when I'm going to stop.
Couple more questions for you. You know, you've had a lot of great moments. You have a long list of accomplishments from 140 to date. What is your favorite accomplishment, or what's your favorite fight in your career?
I would say my favorite fights were, I got two favorite fights. One of my favorite fights was Matisse, because he was the boogeyman at 140. I already beat Amir Khan. I was the unified champion. They put him on the Ring magazine cover, and I was the ring champion. So I felt like I was disrespected. So that kind of like, when I beat him, it was like, yo, you know, Danny's the real deal. No more excuses. And then after that, people, you know, called me cherry picker and whatnot. But, you know, when you're the best, it comes, you know, people hate it. People, you know, it's just how it is. Like, but then I would say at 147, believe it or not, I think the Thurman fight was a great fight. The Thurman fight was a great fight. It was undefeated, two undefeated champions fighting for another unified division. And even though I felt like I won the fight and they didn't give me the fight, I still felt like it was a classy fight. It was a great fight. So I feel like, because that fight, that was my first defeat. So it kind of showed me who I really was, you know, deep inside, outside the ring. So I learned a lot in and out the ring with that fight. And I feel like that fight made me a lot stronger. And, you know, I'm not afraid to be great. I'm not afraid to fail. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are afraid to fail. And I just go in there, I fight my hardest, and I want to win. I always want to win. I always feel like I'm the better fighter, but I'll never be afraid to be great. And I feel like that's in that fight, that's kind of like the description of that fight. That's why I choose the Matisse and the Thurman fight.
Well, last question. You've been a pro for 15 years. You mentioned that after the Spence fight, you took some time off, and that's rebuilt your hunger a little bit. Mm-hmm. How much more does Danny Garcia have left? How much more how much further do you see yourself going in the sport of boxing?
Well, you know, I've been sparring these young guys, and I'll be feeling great. So, but you know, boxing is a mental and is a physical thing. And in boxing, you got to be hungry. You got to be willing to run when you don't feel like running. You got to be willing to train when you don't feel like training. You got to be willing to spar. You got to be willing to do the right thing when no one's looking. And the day I feel like, you know, the day I don't feel like running and I don't run, maybe that's the day I feel like, you know what, I'm going to let, you know, but I feel good. I feel good. Like I said, I want this Benavidez fight. I want to fight a title at 154 or even the Lara fight. And then after that, let's see what's next. And then we'll just take one fight at a time.
Sounds good, Danny. Thank you so much. Danny Garcia, July 30th. We appreciate you. Wishing you all the best, and we'll see you there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. That is going to do it for this week's show. We want to thank Danny Garcia and Rey Vargas for stopping by. Again, make sure to check us out next week for more interviews and more boxing banner right here on the PBC Podcast.